There are moments in life when everything you've built hangs by a thread. When one decision, one signature, one misplaced trust can destroy decades of sacrifice. Ethan Drake was about to learn this the hard way. The 72nd floor of the Vanderbilt Tower in Manhattan glittered like a crystal palace that September afternoon. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Central Park's golden trees, while the Hudson River sparkled in the distance. Inside the executive boardroom of Drake Innovations, champagne bottles sweated condensation onto marble counters, waiting to toast the deal of the century. Ethan Drake, 42 years old and worth $3.7 billion, sat at the head of a table that cost more than most people's homes. His navy Tom Ford suit was impeccable. His Patek Philippe watch caught the light as he reached for the Mont Blanc pen, and his steel-grey eyes held the calm confidence of a man who'd turned a college dorm room idea into a tech empire that stretched from Silicon Valley to Boston. Today, Drake Innovations would merge with Helix Dynamics, a biotech powerhouse, in a deal that would reshape American technology forever. Financial analysts predicted the merger would make Ethan one of the 10 most influential businessmen in the country. CNBC had cameras stationed in the lobby. The Wall Street Journal had already written the headline. "Ethan, my man, we did it," Lucas Hale whispered, his childhood friend and COO squeezing his shoulder. Lucas had been there since the beginning, back when they were coding in Ethan's parents' garage in New Jersey, surviving on pizza and energy drinks. "Once you sign, we're untouchable." Across the polished table, Dr. Serena Maddox smiled like a cat who'd cornered a canary. The Helix Dynamics representative was brilliant, beautiful, and ruthless. Her Boston accent carried authority. "Mr. Drake, shall we make history?" Ethan forced a smile, though something gnawed at his gut. He'd felt it for days, a whisper of unease he couldn't name. The documents looked perfect. The lawyers had signed off. The board was ecstatic. So why did his instincts scream danger? He picked up the pen. That's when the door whispered open. A janitor entered, pushing a grey cleaning cart with squeaky wheels. He wore faded coveralls, a Drake Innovations maintenance badge clipped to his chest. His name tag read Caleb Turner. He was young, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes and cautious movements. "Sorry, sir," Caleb murmured, keeping his gaze down. "I'll be quick." No one cared. Executives kept chattering. Lucas checked his phone. Serena tapped her manicured nails impatiently. But Ethan noticed. He always did. His mother had taught him that invisible people often saw the most. Caleb moved quietly around the room, emptying small waste bins. When he reached Ethan's chair, he bent down to retrieve the trash can beside the billionaire's feet. Then, so softly that it barely registered, Caleb whispered, "Sir, don't sign that document. You're being set up." The pen froze in Ethan's hand. Time seemed to stop. The champagne bottles, the laughter, the cameras waiting downstairs, all of it blurred as 4 words echoed in Ethan's mind. "You're being set up." Ethan's heart pounded against his ribs. He stared at the signature line, the pen trembling in his fingers. "Ethan?" Lucas leaned forward, concern creasing his forehead. "You good, brother?" Across the table, Serena's smile tightened. "Mr. Drake, we've been planning this for 8 months. Everything is in order." The boardroom hummed with anticipation. 12 executives watched him. Investment bankers exchanged glances. His CFO, Margaret Reeves, gave him an encouraging nod. Caleb straightened slowly, adjusting the trash bag as if nothing had happened. His face remained blank, professional. He moved toward the next waste bin with practiced efficiency. Ethan's mind raced. "You're being set up." A janitor. A man he'd greeted maybe twice in passing. Why would he say something like that? Was this a joke? Some bizarre prank? But Caleb's voice had carried no humor, only fear. "Ethan," Lucas pressed, his tone sharpening. "What's wrong?" Ethan set down the pen with deliberate care. "I need 5 minutes." The room erupted. "What?" Serena's composure cracked. "We've scheduled the press conference for 3 o'clock. Mr. Drake, the shareholders are waiting," his CFO added nervously. Lucas grabbed his arm. "Bro, we've worked on this deal since January. The lawyers cleared everything. You're having cold feet." Ethan stood, his 6'2" frame commanding instant attention. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." He walked out. The hallway was quieter, insulated by thick carpet and executive privilege. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. He spotted Caleb pushing his cart toward the service elevator. "You," Ethan called sharply. "Caleb Turner." The janitor stopped, his shoulders tensed. "Break room, now." Caleb's jaw worked silently. For a moment, Ethan thought he might bolt. Then the younger man nodded and changed direction. The executive break room on 72 was empty, all windows and chrome appliances. Ethan shut the door firmly and turned to face the janitor. "What did you mean back there?" Ethan demanded, folding his arms. "And how would a maintenance worker know anything about a multi-billion-dollar merger?" Caleb's hands trembled slightly. He glanced at the door as if calculating escape routes. "Sir, He swallowed hard. "I didn't want to get involved, but I couldn't watch you walk into a trap." "What trap?" Ethan's voice rose. "Speak clearly." Caleb took a shaky breath. "The contract Helix gave you isn't the real one. They swapped pages, hidden clauses. If you sign, you'll lose majority ownership of Drake Innovations within 18 months. Ethan felt ice flood his veins. "That's impossible. My legal team reviewed every line." "Did they review the final copy?" Caleb asked quietly. "Or the one printed this morning?" Silence. Ethan's throat tightened. Why would Lucas betray me? He's been my best friend since we were 17. Something flickered across Caleb's face. Pity, maybe, or recognition. "Because greed changes people, sir. Even the ones we'd die to protect." Ethan paced to the window. Below, Manhattan stretched endlessly, a jungle of steel and ambition. He'd built his empire through instinct and intelligence. Right now, every instinct screamed that Caleb was telling the truth. "Who are you, really?" Ethan turned back. "Janitors don't talk about corporate takeovers and contract clauses." Caleb met his eyes, and for the first time, Ethan saw something besides fear. Intelligence, desperation, and the weight of someone who'd lost everything once before. "I wasn't always a janitor," Caleb said softly. "I used to be somebody, until telling the truth cost me everything." Ethan studied Caleb's face, searching for deception. The younger man stood with the rigid posture of someone bracing for rejection, his maintenance uniform hanging slightly loose on his frame. "Explain," Ethan commanded. "All of it. Right now." Caleb glanced at the clock. "Sir, they're going to come looking for you soon." "Let them." Ethan pulled out a chair and sat, signaling this conversation wasn't ending. "Talk." Caleb rubbed his face with both hands, exhaustion bleeding through the gesture. "I work night shifts, cleaning the executive floors when everyone's gone, or supposed to be gone. And 2 weeks ago I was emptying trash bins on 71. Around 11 p.m., I heard voices through the ventilation shaft." Caleb's voice dropped. "Your COO was in his office, with Dr. Maddox." Ethan's stomach clenched. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop." Caleb continued quickly. But they were arguing, loud enough that I heard through the vent. Lucas was worried you were getting suspicious. Serena told him to relax, that the documents were perfect forgeries. Forgeries, Ethan repeated numbly. They mentioned switching pages in the final contract packet, something about fine print in Section 12 that would trigger a buyout clause. Caleb's hands balled into fists. Lucas said once you sign, you're finished. That Serena would control the patents, and he'd control Drake Innovations. The room spun. Ethan pressed his palms against his temples. This is insane. Lucas and I built this company from nothing. We maxed out credit cards together. He was the best man at my wedding. I know, sir. That's why it took me 2 weeks to say something. Caleb's voice cracked slightly. I kept thinking I'd misheard, that I was paranoid, but then I saw Dr. Maddox enter the building at midnight 3 nights ago. She left at 2 a.m. with Lucas. Ethan looked up sharply. Security footage? Probably deleted. They're careful. Caleb hesitated. But I have something else. He reached into his coverall pocket and pulled out a small digital voice recorder, the cheap kind sold at drugstores. I recorded part of their conversation last Thursday. I was cleaning the conference room next to Lucas's office. They didn't know the connecting door was cracked open. Caleb's hand shook as he held out the device. I'm not proud of this, but you need to hear it. Ethan took the recorder like it was a live grenade. His finger hovered over the play button. Sir, Caleb warned, once you hear it, there's no going back. Play it, Ethan whispered. He pressed the button. Static crackled, then voices emerged. Lucas's familiar baritone, but colder than Ethan had ever heard it. Ethan's too trusting, always has been. He actually thinks I'm doing this for us. Serena's laugh, sharp and cruel. Men like him deserve to lose empires. Too soft, too sentimental. Lucas again. Once he signs Thursday, we execute Phase 2. By Christmas, Drake Innovations will be ours. Ethan will be lucky if we let him keep his Park Avenue apartment. And if he suspects anything? Serena asked. He won't. He's my best friend. He trusts me completely. The recording ended. Ethan sat frozen, his world crumbling. The brother he'd trusted for 25 years, the man who'd held his daughter at her christening, the partner who'd celebrated every victory and weathered every crisis. A traitor. When Ethan finally spoke, his voice was hollow. How do I know this is real? That you're not blackmailing me? Caleb met his eyes steadily. Because, sir, I have absolutely nothing to gain from this, and everything to lose. Ethan sat in stunned silence, the voice recorder resting on the table between them like evidence at a murder trial. His best friend's betrayal echoed in his skull, each word a knife twist. There's more, Caleb said quietly, if you want to see it. More. Ethan's laugh was bitter. What else could there possibly be? Emails, screenshots, financial transfers. Caleb pulled out his phone with nervous fingers. I've been documenting everything for the past week, ever since I realized what was happening. Ethan stared at the janitor, really looked at him for the first time. Caleb's eyes held the exhausted determination of someone fighting a war nobody else could see. Why? Ethan asked. Why risk your job for me? You don't know me. Caleb's expression softened with something like sadness. Because I've watched you for 6 months, sir. Every morning you remember the security guard's name. You thank the cleaning crew. Last month, you bought lunch for the entire mailroom when you heard someone's kid was in the hospital. That's just basic decency. That's rare, Caleb interrupted. Billionaires who treat janitors like human beings, That's rare. And when I heard what Lucas was planning, his jaw tightened. I couldn't let good people get destroyed by bad ones. Not again. The weight behind those last two words hung heavy. Before Ethan could respond, his phone buzzed. Lucas's name flashed on the screen with a text. "Bro, where are you? Everyone's getting worried. Come back and sign so we can celebrate." Ethan's stomach turned. The casual familiarity felt like poison now. "I need proof," Ethan said finally, looking up at Caleb. "Real, verifiable proof. The recording is good, but any lawyer would question its authenticity. If I'm going to accuse my COO of corporate espionage, I need evidence that's bulletproof." Caleb nodded. "Tonight, 7 p.m. Meet me in the parking garage, sublevel 3. I'll bring everything." "Why not now?" "Because right now, you need to go back into that boardroom and act normal." Caleb's voice turned urgent. "If Lucas suspects he'll accelerate the plan. Destroy evidence. Maybe even forge your signature." Ethan stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Below, the city pulsed with ruthless ambition. How many other betrayals were happening right now, behind closed doors and friendly smiles? "If you're lying to me," Ethan said without turning, "if this is some elaborate con, then I'm the world's dumbest criminal," Caleb finished. "Because I'm a janitor making $18 an hour. Going up against a billionaire and his powerful friends. What exactly would I gain?" "Valid point." Ethan turned back. 7 p.m., sublevel 3. Don't be late." Caleb exhaled relief. "Thank you for listening, sir. Most people wouldn't." As Caleb reached for the door, Ethan called out, "Wait. How did you end up here, cleaning floors when you clearly know your way around corporate America?" Caleb's hand froze on the doorknob. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, without turning, "That's a story for another time, Mr. Drake. Right now, you need to save your company." He left. Ethan stood alone in the break room, his reflection ghostly in the window. 25 years of friendship, potentially all a lie. The brother he'd trusted with everything, plotting his downfall. His phone buzzed again. "Lucas." "Ethan, seriously, what's going on?" Ethan straightened his tie, schooled his features into a neutral mask, and texted back, "On my way. Had to take an important call. Time to face the man who'd betrayed him. Time to pretend everything was fine." The parking garage at 7 p.m. was nearly empty, fluorescent lights humming in the concrete cavern. Ethan's Mercedes sat idling in the shadows of sublevel 3. He told his assistant he was meeting a potential investor. Nobody questioned it. Headlights swept across the garage as an old Honda Civic rattled down the ramp. Caleb parked 3 spaces away and climbed out carrying a worn messenger bag. Ethan unlocked his passenger door. "Get in." Caleb slid into leather seats, probably worth more than his car. He pulled out a laptop, several manila folders, and a USB drive. "Everything's here," Caleb said, opening the computer. Emails between Lucas and Serena going back 7 months. Financial transfers to offshore accounts. Screenshots of the original contract versus the one they're having you sign. The differences are subtle but devastating. Ethan scrolled through the files, his face hardening with each page. There it was, Section 12, Subsection D, buried in legal jargon. A clause that would trigger automatic ownership transfer if Drake Innovations stock dropped below a certain threshold. And attached was another document showing Lucas had already shorted his own company's stock, positioned to profit from the collapse he was engineering. "This is enough to bury him," Ethan said quietly. "This is prison time." For both of them, Caleb agreed. Corporate espionage, fraud, conspiracy to commit theft of intellectual property. "I consulted with—" He stopped himself. "Consulted with who?" Caleb stared out the windshield. "I told you I wasn't always a janitor." You said that story was for another time. It's another time. Caleb's voice was flat, emotionless. 3 years ago, I worked for Wells and Carden Consulting in Chicago, one of the top financial advisory firms in the country. I was a senior analyst, making 6 figures, engaged to be married. Ethan listened silently. My supervisor, Martin Weiss, was running an insider trading scheme, using confidential client information to make trades through shell companies. I discovered it by accident, saw emails he'd forgotten to delete. Caleb's hands clenched. I went to the partners, showed them everything. I thought I was doing the right thing. Let me guess, Ethan said bitterly. They didn't see it that way. Caleb laughed without humor. Martin was the CEO's brother-in-law. The firm buried my report, paid off the SEC investigators, and labeled me a disgruntled employee making false accusations. Within a month, I was fired for performance issues. My fiancée left me, and every company I applied to received calls from Wells and Carden saying I was unstable, a liability. They blacklisted you. Completely. Caleb's voice cracked. I burned through savings fighting it, hired lawyers who took my money and delivered nothing. Eventually, I had to move back to New York to take care of my mom. She has stage 3 cancer. The treatments are expensive and Medicaid doesn't cover everything. Ethan felt something heavy settle in his chest. So you took a janitorial job? Only position I could get without background checks that called Chicago references. Night shifts pay $1 extra per hour. I send everything I can to my mom's medical bills. Caleb finally looked at Ethan. That's why I understand betrayal, Mr. Drake. I know what it's like when people you trust destroy your life for profit. Silence filled the car. I'm sorry, Ethan said simply. Don't be. Just don't let Lucas win. Caleb pointed at the laptop. People like them keep winning because good people stay silent. Because victims are too scared to fight back. Ethan's jaw set with determination. Lucas made one mistake. He betrayed the wrong person. What's the plan? Ethan smiled, but it held no warmth. We're going to give him exactly what he wants. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Drake Innovations at 6 a.m., 2 hours before the official signing ceremony. He'd spent the night copying Caleb's files to his personal secure server, consulting with his private attorney, and planning. Lucas met him in the executive lounge, coffee in hand. Hey man, you feeling better? Yesterday got weird. Ethan forced a smile. Just got overwhelmed. This is a huge step. Biggest of our lives. Lucas clapped his shoulder, and Ethan fought the urge to recoil. Look, I know change is scary, but trust me, bro, this deal is going to make us legends. Us. The audacity of the lie made Ethan's blood boil. You're right, Ethan said carefully. I'm ready to sign. Relief flooded Lucas's face. That's my guy. Serena's already here with the Helix team. Press conference is at 10. By lunch, we'll be celebrating. By lunch, Ethan thought darkly, you'll be in handcuffs. The boardroom filled quickly. Executives, lawyers, board members, journalists allowed in for the historic moment. Serena Maddox arrived wearing Chanel and confidence, her smile razor-sharp. Mr. Drake, she purred. Glad you've decided to join the future. Wouldn't miss it. At 9:30, the contracts were distributed. Ethan had secretly arranged for his attorney to photograph every page through a hidden buttonhole camera. They'd compare it to Caleb's stolen original tonight. Lucas called for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Drake Innovations and Helix Dynamics become one. A technological powerhouse that will reshape American innovation. Applause. Ethan stood, about to speak, when the boardroom door opened. Caleb entered in his maintenance uniform, pushing his cleaning cart. "Sorry," Caleb murmured. "I was told to." "Not now," Lucas snapped, irritation cracking his polished veneer. "We're in the middle of something important." Caleb nodded apologetically and moved to the corner, emptying a trash bin. Ethan's heart pounded. They'd agreed Caleb would stay away today. Why was he here? Then Ethan saw it. Caleb's eyes, wide with warning, cutting sharply toward Lucas. Something was wrong. Before Ethan could react, Lucas stood abruptly. "Actually, I'm glad you're here, Caleb." His voice turned cold. "We have a serious problem." The room went silent. Lucas pulled out his phone, projecting an image onto the boardroom screen. It showed Caleb in the parking garage, standing next to Ethan's Mercedes. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Last night," Lucas announced, "security cameras caught this janitor meeting privately with Mr. Drake in the parking garage, a janitor who, upon further investigation, has a criminal history of corporate espionage." "That's a lie," Caleb said, voice shaking. "Is it?" Lucas's smile was vicious. 3 years ago, you were fired from Wells & Carden for falsifying documents and attempting to blackmail executives. You're a disgraced financial analyst with a grudge against successful people. Ethan realized the trap too late. Lucas had been watching, had anticipated everything. "This morning," Lucas continued, "I discovered that classified Drake Innovations files were copied to an external drive. The access logs trace back to Mr. Turner's employee badge." He turned to Ethan with perfectly performed concern. "Ethan, I think this man has been manipulating you." The board erupted in shocked murmurs. Serena stood, outrage perfectly choreographed. "This is unconscionable. Corporate espionage during a merger. We could pull out entirely." "No," Ethan started, but Lucas cut him off. "Security, remove this man immediately. Ethan, I know he's confused you, but we need to sign before this scandal derails everything." 2 security guards grabbed Caleb's arms. "Sir," Caleb pleaded, looking at Ethan, "don't let them." "He's lying," Ethan said loudly. "Lucas is lying." The room froze. Lucas's smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "I know everything," Ethan said quietly. "About the forged contracts, the offshore accounts, all of it." Gasps rippled through the boardroom. Serena's face paled. The board members exchanged confused glances. Lucas laughed, but it sounded forced. "Bro, you're not making sense. This janitor has clearly gotten into your head." "His name is Caleb Turner," Ethan interrupted, "and he's not a criminal. He's a whistleblower who lost everything for telling the truth, just like he's doing now." "This is absurd," Serena cut in, her Boston accent sharp with panic masked as indignation. "We've spent months on this deal. You're going to derail it because a maintenance worker told you conspiracy theories?" Ethan turned to face the room. "The contract you want me to sign contains clauses that aren't in the original agreement. Section 12 specifically. It contains language that would transfer my majority ownership if stock prices drop below a threshold Lucas has already positioned to manipulate through short selling." Lucas's jaw tightened. "That's ridiculous." "Where's your proof?" "Right here." Ethan pulled out his phone, but Lucas was faster. "Don't," Lucas said, his friendly mask finally slipping. "Ethan, think about what you're doing. These are serious accusations. Slander. You could destroy everything over some janitor's fairy tales." "Then prove me wrong," Ethan challenged. "Let's have an independent legal team compare today's contract with the original version from 6 weeks ago. Line by line. Right now." Silence. Lucas's face transformed. The warmth, the brotherhood, the years of friendship, all melted away, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. "You ungrateful fool," Lucas hissed. "I built this company as much as you did. I deserve this." The admission hung in the air like smoke. Board members stood. Serena moved toward the door. Security looked uncertain about who to detain. 25 years, Ethan said, his voice breaking despite his anger. We survived college together. Built this from nothing. I trusted you with everything. And you were going to steal it all. You were always too soft, Lucas spat. Too concerned with being nice, being fair. This world doesn't reward nice, Ethan. It rewards strength. And I'm stronger than you. Are you? Ethan pressed a button on his phone. Lucas's voice filled the room, tinny but clear through the boardroom speakers. Once Ethan signs Thursday, we execute Phase 2. By Christmas, Drake Innovations will be ours. Serena's response followed. Men like him deserve to lose empires. More voices, more damning evidence. The full recording Caleb had captured now played for everyone to hear. Lucas's face went white. I've been recording every conversation we've had for the past 24 hours, Ethan said quietly, including your confession just now. It's already backed up to 3 different servers and sent to my attorney. Lucas lunged forward, but security, now understanding the situation, grabbed him. You're finished, Lucas snarled. You think you've won? I have connections, lawyers. You can't prove. I can prove everything, Ethan gestured to Caleb, still held by guards who now looked apologetic. Release him. He's not the criminal here. They let Caleb go. Ethan turned to his CFO. Margaret, call the police and contact the SEC. We have corporate fraud to report. Serena bolted for the door, but more security blocked her exit. It's over, Ethan said, his voice carrying across the chaos. Both of you. It's over. Lucas stared at him with pure hatred. This janitor, he spat. You chose a janitor over your best friend? Ethan looked at Caleb, standing disheveled but dignified in his maintenance uniform, then back at Lucas. He was more loyal in one conversation than you've been in 25 years. The boardroom erupted into controlled chaos. Board members shouted questions. Executives frantically called lawyers. Journalists who'd come to document a historic merger found themselves witnessing a corporate scandal instead. Margaret Reeves, Drake's CFO, took charge with efficient calm. Someone get corporate counsel up here immediately. Nobody leaves this room until the police arrive. Serena Maddox maintained her composure even as security blocked the exits. This is a misunderstanding. Mr. Drake is clearly having some kind of breakdown. I have your emails, Ethan interrupted, holding up his phone. Dated correspondences discussing the contract modifications, financial records showing payments to offshore shell companies, text messages between you and Lucas coordinating the timeline. Serena's mask cracked. Those are privileged communications. They're evidence of fraud, Ethan corrected, and they've been sent to federal prosecutors. Lucas had gone unnaturally still, his mind visibly calculating exit strategies that no longer existed. Ethan, listen. We can fix this. Just you and me, like old times. Remember Jersey? Remember when we promised to always have each other's backs? I kept that promise, Ethan said coldly. You broke it 7 months ago when you started planning this. I made you! Lucas's composure finally shattered. Those first investors, I brought them in. That deal with Microsoft, my connections. You wouldn't have built an empire without me. I deserve half of everything. You had equity, Ethan shot back. You're worth $200 million, Lucas. How much was enough? It's never enough, Lucas roared. Not when you get all the credit. Not when every article calls Drake Innovations your company. I was tired of being the sidekick. The raw jealousy in his voice silenced the room. Caleb, standing quietly by his cleaning cart, spoke for the first time. You had everything most people dream of. Wealth, power, respect. And you destroyed it because your ego couldn't handle sharing glory. Lucas turned on him with venomous rage. You're a janitor, a nobody. You don't get to judge me. No, Caleb replied evenly, but a jury will. Sirens wailed outside, growing louder. Through the boardroom windows, Ethan saw police cars pulling up to the Vanderbilt Tower's entrance. 2 officers entered minutes later, followed by FBI agents in windbreakers. Margaret had apparently called federal authorities directly, given the interstate nature of the fraud. Lucas Hale. The lead agent approached with handcuffs. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and corporate espionage. As they cuffed him, Lucas looked at Ethan with something between betrayal and disbelief. You'd really do this? Put me in prison? You did this, Ethan said quietly. You made the choice. Lucas was led away, still shouting threats about lawyers and consequences that would never materialize. Serena went more quietly, her lawyer already on speakerphone issuing instructions. Her last look at Ethan was pure calculation, already planning her defense, her pivot, her next scheme. As the police cleared the room, the board secretary approached Ethan nervously. Sir, the press downstairs. What should we tell them? Ethan took a breath, his hands trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. The truth. That we discovered fraud before it could harm the company. That Drake Innovations' integrity remains intact. He looked at Caleb, who stood awkwardly by his cleaning cart, watching everything with exhausted relief. And that we owe our survival to someone who refused to stay silent when he saw corruption. One of the board members, Richard Torres, who'd been with the company since its IPO, walked over to Caleb. Son, thank you. You saved this company. Caleb nodded, seeming overwhelmed. I just did what was right, sir. Doing what's right took more courage than most of us have, Richard replied. 3 days after Lucas's arrest, Ethan called Caleb to his office. The janitor arrived in his usual maintenance uniform, clearly nervous about being summoned by the CEO. Sit, Ethan instructed, gesturing to the leather chair across from his desk. Caleb perched uncomfortably on the edge. Sir, if this is about the media attention, I didn't mean to. It's not. Ethan pulled out a folder. I've been reviewing your background. Before Chicago, you graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern with a degree in financial analysis. You published 3 papers on corporate governance that are still cited in business schools. Your former colleagues, the ones not connected to Martin Weiss, all said you were brilliant. Caleb's jaw tightened. That was a different life. It doesn't have to be. Ethan slid the folder across. I'm offering you a position as senior analyst in our corporate compliance division. Starting salary is $250,000, full benefits, stock options, and a signing bonus to cover your mother's medical expenses for the next 2 years. Caleb stared at the offer letter like it was written in a foreign language. Sir, I'm a janitor. You're a financial analyst who was destroyed for having integrity, Ethan corrected. You saved my company because you understood corporate fraud better than my entire legal team. I need people like you. People who'll tell me the truth even when it's dangerous. I don't have current certifications, recommendations. I'm your recommendation. Ethan leaned forward. Caleb, you did in 2 weeks what my security team missed for 7 months. You risked everything to stop a fraud that would have destroyed hundreds of jobs. That's worth more than any certification. Tears welled in Caleb's eyes. My mom. She needs surgery next month. Insurance denied it again. Approved, Ethan said simply. Drake Innovations will cover it entirely through our medical foundation. She'll get the best oncologist in New York, and you'll get a life back. Caleb broke down. Years of humiliation, poverty, and fear poured out in quiet sobs. Ethan handed him tissues and waited patiently. "Why?" Caleb finally asked. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because someone should have done it 3 years ago," Ethan replied. "You saved my empire. Let me help you rebuild yours." Caleb signed the contract with shaking hands. Over the next 2 months, Caleb proved Ethan's faith justified. He restructured Drake Innovations' internal compliance systems, implementing checks that would prevent fraud attempts. He identified 2 additional vulnerabilities in the company's financial controls, smaller schemes that could have cost millions. More importantly, he showed other employees that doing the right thing wouldn't be punished. Caleb's mother, Dorothy Turner, received her surgery at Mount Sinai. Ethan visited her during recovery, bringing flowers. "You raised a remarkable son," Ethan told her. Dorothy smiled weakly. "Nah. He's always been too honest for his own good." "The world needs more people like that," Ethan replied. Meanwhile, Lucas Hale and Serena Maddox faced multiple federal charges. Lucas's lawyer negotiated a plea deal, 15 years for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted theft of intellectual property. Serena fought harder, but the evidence was overwhelming. She received 12 years. The Wall Street Journal ran a feature titled "The Janitor Who Saved a Billion-Dollar Company." Major media covered it. LinkedIn exploded with discussions about corporate culture and whistleblower protection. But Caleb avoided most interviews. He was busy working, rebuilding his reputation, and visiting his mother every evening. One Friday afternoon, Ethan found Caleb in his new office, a real office with windows overlooking Manhattan. "How does it feel?" Ethan asked. Caleb looked around, still seeming slightly overwhelmed. "Like I'm dreaming and terrified I'll wake up." "You won't," Ethan promised. "You earned this. Never forget that." Caleb smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Drake, for believing me. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up." 6 months after the scandal, Drake Innovations held its annual gala at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan. The company had not only survived the crisis but thrived, with stock prices reaching record highs after Ethan's transparent handling of the fraud attracted investor confidence. Caleb arrived in a tailored suit, his first, purchased nervously with his signing bonus, looking uncomfortable among the black tie crowd. "You clean up nice," Ethan said, approaching with champagne flutes. Caleb laughed nervously. "I still feel like I should be emptying the trash bins." "Those days are over." Ethan handed him a glass. "Though I hope you remember where you came from. People at the top forget too easily. I won't forget. I can't." Caleb gestured to where his mother sat at a table, healthy and glowing after successful treatment. "Every morning I wake up grateful this is real." Ethan had given Dorothy a permanent position as well, consulting on Drake Innovations' employee wellness programs, using her background as a former nurse. "Your mom's doing incredible work," Ethan noted. "Her proposal for expanded family medical leave passed the board unanimously." "She's happy," Caleb said simply. "First time in years I've seen her truly happy." Across the ballroom, Richard Torres approached with a young woman. "Ethan, Caleb, I want you to meet my daughter, Sarah. She's starting law school at Columbia in the fall." As they chatted, Sarah mentioned her focus on corporate ethics law. Caleb's eyes lit up as they discussed whistleblower protections, and Ethan smiled seeing the connection spark. Later, as the gala wound down, Ethan stepped onto the plaza's terrace overlooking Central Park. The city glittered beneath a clear October sky. Caleb joined him. "Thinking about Lucas?" Ethan nodded. "Sometimes I wonder if I missed signs, if I was too trusting." "Trust isn't weakness," Caleb said quietly. "Lucas's betrayal was his choice, not your failure. You built the company based on integrity. That's rare. You taught me that integrity means nothing if it's not defended." Ethan turned to face him. I'm announcing something Monday. A new initiative. The Turner Whistleblower Protection Fund. $10 million annually to support employees who report corporate misconduct. Legal protection, financial support, job placement. Everything you didn't have. Caleb's eyes widened. You're naming it after me. You started this. Others should finish it. They stood in companionable silence, two men from vastly different worlds brought together by crisis and integrity. You know what's funny? Caleb finally said. A year ago, I was scrubbing toilets at 3 a.m., wondering if life would ever get better. I'd accepted that honesty had cost me everything, that maybe I was stupid for not just keeping quiet. You were never stupid. I felt stupid. Felt like the world punished good people and rewarded bastards like Lucas. Caleb smiled slightly. Then I met a billionaire who actually gave a damn about janitors, who listened when everyone else would have ignored me. I almost didn't, Ethan admitted. Part of me thought you were crazy. A janitor warning me about $1 billion fraud. It sounded insane. But you listened anyway. Because my mother taught me that invisible people often see the most. Ethan raised his glass. To visibility, to truth, to second chances. To second chances, Caleb echoed. They toasted against the Manhattan skyline, a CEO and a former janitor who'd saved each other. Inside the ballroom, Dorothy Turner watched her son laugh with one of the most powerful men in America, and she wept with gratitude. Sometimes justice comes late, but when it comes, it changes everything.